G'day. I think Hogwarts Legacy could have been a memorable, amazing experience that other developers could look to as inspiration, but to do that, an entirely different game would have had to have been made. I'm not trying to be a contrarian or stir up controversy or anything when I say Hogwarts is honestly a 6 out of 10 game at best. I wouldn't be surprised if it shows up as a nominee for Game of the Year though, because the IP itself seems to have such great control over people that they can't tell they're essentially playing a Harry Potter version of the copy-paste formula that Ubisoft is criticized for in all of their games. There are definitely positives that I will stand by, such as the combat being quite engaging and quite hectic with a lot of enemies on screen, if you seek out the more difficult fights that is, so long as you aren't being forced to unequip spells for actions that should be contextual inputs, when the game just allows you to have the spells you want to have equipped, switching through the slots and hitting enemies with something like 9 spells just one after the other. It's quite fun. The voice acting and the amount of different characters you're able to meet is great, and the sense of scale and details within the school are incredible. I adored the first 3 movies as a kid, but have otherwise had a lukewarm reception of the series overall, but even I got lost within the hallways of Hogwarts and just really spent time appreciating the attention to detail and just staring at the architecture and the paintings as well. But the school and the nearby town of Hogsmeade are essentially the only 2 locations in the whole game that received this level of care. One of the things that dragged the experience down for me was the fact that the entire rest of the map was a barren world with barely anything interesting to see and not even some basic environmental storytelling to compensate. At best, you get a couple of random encounters like different factions fighting each other, but again, it doesn't really happen that much and it's only a minimum effort from my point of view. The first time I came across a Merlin trial, I was excited at the prospect of having to work out how to solve it, and when I came across the second one, that's where I realized there was only going to be a couple of ways to solve these, and there was still 90 odd more out in the world. You rock up to a location, and you have to interact with a few stones by either jumping on them one after the other, blowing them up, or hitting them with a specific spell. Not exactly engaging, especially when there's 90 something of them to do, but even worse is that the only reward is an ever increasing number of slots to store gear, and honestly that should have been just increased from the beginning because you pick up so much shit, you're constantly just going in, having to delete items or sell them, and when you've got menus that are as slow as the one in this game, it just makes for a very painful experience. Then you've got other superfluous tasks that only reward you with clothing, like standing on circular platforms or looking at constellations. You don't get any unique gear with any unique skills or set bonuses or anything like that. It's purely just cosmetic stuff. If you're after something more engaging, you could try your hand at many of the side quests scattered throughout the land, but most are essentially 1990s MMO style fetch quests that don't even have any interesting series of dialogue or story to go with it. Being open world actively harms the overall experience for people like me looking for something with a bit more depth. I can see the appeal for people with TikTok brains where picking up 800 useless collectibles every 15 seconds gets their neurons just popping off, but it just comes across as if the devs didn't have anything of value to offer other than basic Ubisoft spamathon design. Games like Mad Max and Arcane's Prey do a wonderful job of giving you small stories to piece together based on the things you find in optional areas. Prey is definitely a great example because it shows the strength of making smaller scale games. It's been said countless times, but what good is a map that's as wide as the ocean but as deep as a puddle? A second issue that many fans of the game seem to be blind to is how disconnected and, frankly, awful the main story is. The whole premise of the game is that you're a new student to Hogwarts who gets caught up in a conflict with goblins. That's not the case at all. You're actually a 34-year-old undercover agent sent by the Ministry due to your high level of combat experience and unwavering will. It's the only way this dumb plot makes sense to me. Sure, throw the whole chosen one thing at me with the ancient magic, whatever, but its use creates what are basically plot holes that I'll go over in a sec. I'm confident the students you meet and hang out with, and also fight with, aren't actually 15-year-olds either. Everyone has this incredible sense of righteousness and understanding of the world, and fight people who should be so much more experienced and dangerous in combat, but these teenagers just wipe the floor with them and completely uproot established criminal organizations. All the while, not a single ministry member or police officer are ever actually present with a force that would be needed to tackle such people. At best, a cop will show up at the end of Natty's quest line to arrest one bloke after you already killed his entire group. Can you imagine a 15-year-old kid walking into a pub and beating up 8 bikies before interrupting a drug shipment? I hope you agree how terrible the writing is. And the thing with this ancient magic is that when you use a finisher, you are killing the target. You can permanently turn them into a chicken, squish their bones and organs by smashing them into the ground, explode them with lightning, and even turn them into nothing but dust particles. Literally killing so many people, and not a single person questions this or reprimands you for it. Where it really gets stupid is during Sebastian's questline. At one point, you return to his family home and you see his sister surrounded by goblins. We both enter, I kill everyone, explode them, use Crucio once or twice, a cursed spell if you're unaware. Then during the cutscene after the fight, Sebastian uses Imperio to take control of a goblin that's about to kill his sister, and his uncle has a go at him for using that spell. Literally saved his sister, but because it was with a cursed spell, it becomes an issue. Not a word is said to me about using cursed spells during the same fight, or the fact that I fucking killed everyone. The whole cursed aspect is fucking stupid anyway because of the existence of spells like Bombarda. You can totally explode someone's head apart, burn someone to death, or freeze someone to then smash into pieces, but an instant and painless death is frowned upon apparently. When you make your way to the end of the game, you find out that your choices mean fuck all. Nothing matters. Fig dies regardless of your final choice. All you can do is sometimes be an arsehole to people with no consequences and choose whether or not to send Sebastian to Azkaban after he kills his uncle. There's some very slight changes with the final scene after you kill Renrock, but it's akin to picking your color in Mass Effect 3. The actual final mission after you defeat Ranrock, I didn't even have access to because I was 4 levels below its requirement, and that was after a large chunk of side content included in my 34-hour playthrough. Yet another aspect of game design taken from Ubisoft for some reason. After barely making a level and a half of progress in 2 hours, I decided to just look it up before I uninstalled the game. All it is a montage showing your classmates learning and then your chosen house being made the winners of the House Cup. No one talks about any of your actions or anything. It's just Professor Weasley going, "Pro Tycoon had a sick adventure. 1 million points to their house." I can only assume the reason this single cutscene was locked behind a level requirement was to force players to spend more time playing their bullshit copy-paste activities. Personally, if I was organising the premise and design approach of this game, here's what I'd do. Remove the story with Renrock because it sucks. Make Sebastian's quest to cure his sister from a curse the main plot. Obviously, it would need to be extended, but this could serve as an interesting main quest. It wouldn't contain this disconnected sense of urgency compared to the rest of the world around you like the game currently does. You could introduce actual good and bad actions for the player to make with regards to whether you join Sebastian's desperation and turn to unknown dark magic, or try to put some sense into him and keep him grounded with everyone else. You could actually do something where choices have an outcome, a real outcome. You could have Rookwood around as the main bad guy and have him actually do something other than just dying in this super underwhelming duel that you have with him towards the end of the game. If you follow the bad choices, it could lead to Rookwood's death at the hands of Sebastian himself, and maybe even a permanent injury to his uncle in the chaos or something. With Rookwood dead, you would have no way to cure Anne. Choose good actions, and it could lead to fellow classmates joining you and working together to incapacitate Rookwood instead of outright killing him, and whilst under threat, he agrees to undo the curse set on Anne. So that's the main quest, but what I'd also change is each house would have a main character who has their own quest line full of challenges and character development. Maybe a 2-hour affair or something like that per character. I'd also add 1 or 2 other characters for each house that have a roughly 30 to 45 minute quest line in total, just to help flesh out a larger group and really reinforce the fact that you're in a school with so many different personalities all socializing together with their own insights and hobbies. Next up would be level design. I'd say the game could be about half its current size, and even then I would argue about shrinking it further. This could allow the game to feel less barren and reliant on uninteresting copy-paste collectibles. It could have allowed some extra activities to be thrown in, like chess. How are we not able to play chess, but you're going to tease us with boards scattered around? Something I wish they had borrowed from Bully is an actual functional school routine as well. Have NPCs walk between classes in real time and go to designated hangout spots instead of just kind of teleporting to whatever area the player is in. There already is an attempt to make the place feel more lived in with random interactions that NPCs have amongst themselves, and that's really good, but then you get that disconnected feel because you can't interact with anything, and like I said, they just sort of teleport to whatever location you happen to be in. Let the player interact with their classmates in the common room with some sort of friendship points used in order to become closer with your mates. Have some sort of police system where prefects and the occasional professor roam the castle at night until you're given leniency to be up and walk about at later times or something. Have group events where everyone can participate, not just 2 people. The no-brainer suggestion would be Quidditch, obviously. Imagine a whole season playing out with different reactions and comments from the students depending on who wins the season. Seriously, I don't understand why they neglected the school aspect so much and made this generic Chosen One story and just tried to turn it into a generic experience. I could obviously drone on for longer, but I want to leave it there for now. I really do envy people that are so tied to a franchise. No matter how much I love something, I'm still going to see the flaws and will suggest and want to see continual improvement and innovation. But these people just see wands waving around and go, yeah, that's my game of the year right there, running at a cinematic 15 FPS. Until the next video, have a good one.